Hey everybody, this is Josh Olive with Haven Comics. It's Thursday night, which means it's time for Shop Talk. And tonight, Alan and I are going to be talking about comics, movies, toys, really whatever floats our boat as we go along. So we're going to hopefully have a fun time, and we're looking forward to talking with you guys. If you're not familiar with Haven, we are absolutely the best comic book store on Slaughter Road in Madison, Alabama. I defy anybody to say different. So, that said, let's jump into our awesome intro video. Really appreciate Nick Ellis of Two Brothers Comics for putting that intro video together for us. It's the bomb, and it makes me happy literally every single time I play it. So appreciate that, Nick. Shout out to you, brother. Without further ado, we're going to jump right in and bring on the man himself, Alan Breedlove. What's happening, Alan?
What is going on, Josh? I wanted to start the show out with a big congratulations to all the ladies at North Alabama Dance Studio. This past weekend, we were in Birmingham for the dance competition because the Bug does dance. The ladies absolutely killed it, and a special shout out to Bug's group, the Junior Tap Line. Not only did they score platinum, but which is the highest score that you can get, but they also took home first place in their division. So
Right on.
I know it was all exciting. I mean, so congratulations. I mean, literally, Lily, Katie, Maddie, Lana, Trinity, and everybody else that I'm forgetting. Y'all were friggin' awesome. So next on is New Orleans, and we'll dominate that one too.
I like the sound of that.
So, and
Literally
then
and figuratively.
the fourth most important thing that has ever happened in my life happened not before last.
Did you get right with God?
Make that the fifth most important thing that's ever happened in my life. There we go.
There you go.
So, I finally learned how to make egg rolls.
Dude, how do you make egg rolls? I feel like I'm being set up here, but how do you make egg rolls?
You just push them.
I hate you so much.
I hate me too.
Where'd you come up with this junk?
I mean, I don't use the internet for good. I don't. I mean, I would have made a great supervillain.
Yeah, you would.
Yeah.
Terrible.
I mean, could you imagine me and Spider-Man in a fight? It's going to be nothing but one-liners, right back and forth.
No, that's pretty awful.
Oh, and did you hear that? Because I'm kind of digging this.
Oh, you couldn't help but hear it.
I went
and
found
as
it.
Tots pointed out, good to see you, Tots. The only thing missing on the show was a laugh track.
I will.
We have a clap track. We get a laugh track next.
Yep, we will get a laugh track.
And besides Tots, we got James in the house, man. It's always good to see you, James. Appreciate you hanging out with us tonight. And we got the one, the only Nick Ellis here, only for the manga. So just get it out the way. Go ahead, talk some manga. You didn't bring that Fist of the North Star by for me, did you?
No, we have been running so much here lately. I will try to get by there Saturday. As far as manga's concerned, I do not have a book with me, and the reason why I do not have a book is they're kind of hard to. You can order them off Amazon. I think it's one of the only places you can get them now because the series is finished. And it's called Fairy Tale. It's by Hiro Mashima, and he is the same guy who is currently writing Eden Zero. If anybody's reading Eden Zero, it's kind of along the same storylines, except it's literally you have wizards and you have trains. I mean, they're literally riding a train in it. So it's kind of a mix of the age, completely and totally made up land. You have dragon slayer magic, ice magic. I mean, every form of magic you can imagine. I'm also, thanks to Wyatt over at the Blurred Syndicate, I got turned on to the Crunchyroll app, and I am using and abusing the free version of the Crunchyroll app. Yes, Tots, I'm
Isn't the
still.
paid version of Crunchyroll just like $10 or something?
Yeah, it's only like $10, but it was one of those I wanted to try it out to see if I actually liked it first. Um, the bad thing
Fair enough.
on the free version is you don't get the English dub, so I'm reading a ton of subtitles. But Eden Zero was made into an anime, and so far it's been pretty close to the book itself. The book ran for 63 volumes, and I'm on like volume 51. I mean, I powered through those things. I mean, it's a great story. It's fun. If you, yeah, yeah, I have to still sound out the big words like and the, but if you like Eden Zero, definitely give Fairy Tale a try. He wrote Fairy Tale before Eden Zero. You'll definitely see similar characters. But other than that, I mean, actually, both of them have been really great reads so far. So, Nick, if you're still with us, there's your manga for the night. And I still need a video that says Manga Minute across it.
That's true. You do need that.
Yeah,
It can be like the rainbow, but it's Manga Minute.
There is one thing that I've noticed about Hiro Mashima with, and I'm probably saying his name wrong. I'll be honest with y'all. I'm a redneck. I can't talk straight. No, Eden Zero is not a sequel. In fact, there was even a couple of books called Mashima's Heroes where the two main characters, the two main groups met. One thing that I did notice in Fairy Tale was someone who would, I guess, depending on who's reading it, might be considered the supporting character. Her name is Urza. She actually ends up becoming one of the most popular characters out of the entire series. It is not. Maybe a couple of scenes. But there's another character in Eden Zero called Witch. And spoiler alert, Nick, if you are not up to at least issue 19 on Eden Zero, you might want to mute me for just a minute. That character, in my opinion, was getting to be just as popular and was actually starting to become the better character out of all of them. So instead of her becoming the favorite out of the series, he pretty much kills her off. Is there a way she can come back? Yeah, there is a way she can come back, but I don't think they will. Yeah, I think she gets killed in either volume 18, 19, right in there somewhere, because volume 20 just come out. So, but Eden Zero and Fairy Tale, they're more along the lines of like, I believe somebody called it the shonen type of manga. So Josh is already bored. He's like staring off. He's yawning. So Nick, next time you're on, we'll talk about it then.
Can I show something off?
Yes, you can.
I got something in that is dumb and it is stupid. And I ordered it because it's also awesome. If you've ever played Dungeons and Dragons and you've gone down a creepy hallway and there was a pit and you fell into it and you died because you were stuck in a sort of pseudo living giant ball of acidic jello, they have now the gelatinous cube.
Okay.
It like things fall into it or walk into it, and it just kind of sucks them in, and they dissolve and they die, and it's horrible. But it is indeed the gelatinous cube. It's the dumbest and coolest thing in the world. Now that's the box. There's the back of the box. Here is the assembled, because you notice the box is not cube shaped. Assembled it looks like this. Now, you have to order an action figure separately to achieve the effect of dead dude floating inside of it. That said, I totally ordered the action figure too because what good is it without a dead dude floating in there and his arm sticking out? Which is what you can do if you so choose because this shield pops out and his hand can stick through there. So you can have his dissolving body, but he's a freshman. And all of these artifacts that are on here, by the way, that are barely sticking out, you can pull off all of those and put them back. So that's pretty cool. You got coin purses, potions, satchels, broken shields, an axe. Some poor sap who got he had a bad time. That's his skull, and there's his leg. There's a like a pelvis and another leg and a bow. This is quite possibly the dumbest box in the world, and yet it's awesome, and I paid good money for that.
But are you happy?
Do what?
I said, but are you happy?
Heck yeah, I'm happy.
That's all that matters.
That's a totally goobery thing, but I am very happy. What's up, Kyle? Good to see you, man. It's been a minute.
What's going on, Kyle?
Yeah, if you like the gelatinous cube, I do have another one that I will be bringing up to the shop and putting a price tag on. So if you like it, it will be available at the shop. And next time your party encounters a gelatinous cube, you can put that on the table and say, I hate what happened to you, but there you are. That's you floating in the middle of that. You're dead. Adios.
So can you change out like the body parts and the action figure that's floating in it and all that?
The action figure floating in it, absolutely. The other stuff, it's kind of got cutouts or it's got indentations in it that shows the shape. So you could put other things, but it would be awkward potentially.
Because I really think that Tots needs a yellow one of those for Honey Heist with Winnie the Pooh in it.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, that's
a fantastic idea. What's happening, Mike Wesolowski? How are you, man? Always good to see you on here on a Thursday night.
So, but
I'm entirely sure you could do that.
Oh yeah.
And look at this. Hello. What's happening there, Aaron? Good to see you.
Is that Aaron down in Florida?
No. That's Aaron. This is different Aaron. She's here in town. She feels guilty because she hasn't been by the store in a couple of weeks.
Well, the only way to make up for that is to bring Krispy Kreme.
Krispy Kreme does go a long way.
Yeah,
that's true. Or support local and go buy the new baking test and pick up some of their goodies. You guys have had kolaches, right? You know what kolaches are?
No, please do tell.
Think like a super fancy pig in a blanket, right? It's a sausage, often with cheese, and it's wrapped in dough and baked, right? Sometimes it's completely wrapped. Sometimes it sticks out the end a little bit. There's all different ways of making them. They are working on one at the baking test, which is sausage and gravy. Like good old breakfast sausage and gravy. It's all your sausage and gravy, but inside the biscuit. Man, I'm excited. Yeah, I was going to say something about that shirt earlier because that shirt is pretty rad.
In honor of issue 100 coming out this week.
Aaron, it's not specifically a kolache place, but it's downtown in the old Huntsville Times building. It is called the Baking Test. Hey, speaking of people who know about that, Kaylisa, tell us about the Baking Test. You want to come on? We're talking about kolaches or whatever the actual name is for savory kolaches. It's different. I don't know it.
Yes.
There you go. There's your address.
I can call her a cheater to her face if she comes on. Because she baked the judges. She baked the judges' cookies for the genie contest. That's not fair.
They didn't get to eat them.
It doesn't matter. I mean, I could have put like some art out there with a full-blown brisket or something if I known we was going that route.
If you had carved a genie out of biscuit or a brisket, that would have been awesome.
Yeah, it would have been funny, wouldn't it?
Oh, Lisa says, all right, give me a second. She's going to come on here.
Just jump right on here.
She's going to come on here and you can challenge her to her face.
Mm-hmm.
And she's all caps at you. So,
yes, she did.
Yeah.
Don't yell at me.
It looks like she might. You might have poked the bear.
Oh, that's fine.
Baked king cake for work and subsequently won a Halloween contest. Yeah, that's well played.
So I really can't say anything. A few years ago, my sister was having a where she works at. They were doing a chili cooking competition, and she called me, and I come over to her house the night before and made the chili for her, and then she won it the next day with the chili that I made.
Well played. Well played.
Do what you got to do. Do what you got to do.
It's definitely homemade. It was homemade in her house.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what else can you say?
Well, what made it so bad was she had like all these bizarre ingredients that I don't use for chili. And it was like making, like pickled jalapenos. I mean, dude, it was like bizarre stuff. I'm like, who keeps a jar of pickled jalapenos in the house? So I was just like throwing stuff on there and mixing it all together just to see what would happen. And she ended up winning a trophy and everything.
That's kind of awesome.
Was she just doing this number?
I don't know. But you can go ahead and make your face-to-face accusations starting now.
What do you want?
So I saw the cooking and I thought, hey, that was really cool and everything. But then I thought, that's like bribery. So you literally, I mean, even though they did not get to eat the cookie, it was still bribery.
Yeah, but I don't know how I can bribe someone that's not getting paid.
I'll do you like I do my kids when they start making excuses.
Listen, you're just mad because you didn't think about drawing his cat.
Oh, no, I'm not mad. I'm furious.
Hey, hang on a minute. I have a question about this. That's what the store is called, but
that's literally the name.
Yeah, what's that slip of the tongue or typo waiting for a lawsuit? I don't get it. Maybe I'm
It's the store is called the Baking Tist because it's a bakery started by a scientist. Our owner and proprietor, Heidi, she is a I can't even remember, but she has a master's degree in science, so she started a bakery.
I would guess.
No, these jalapeno slices literally tasted like they had been soaked.
Got it, Mike.
Yeah.
Good call. Yeah, you have to be careful how you type that.
No,
not you.
Oh, okay.
But they had literally tasted like they had been soaked in pickle juice. I mean, it was awful. They were not good at all.
Yeah.
While he's accusing you of things outside, did you see this?
I love that. So can you put like figurines and stuff in it?
You can put an action figure in here, and you can have his hand or his arm sticking out, and he can be floating. It looks like he's floating in space.
Do you have a Joe that would fit that?
I have an actual D&D action figure on order, and it left the warehouse today, so it should be at my house like tomorrow or Saturday. Get your own gelatinous cube. And all of these artifacts come off and can be put back on.
Oh.
So if you want a bow and arrow, you want a skull, you want a fractured pelvis and femur, whatever you want, they all come off and you can put them back on. The partial scrolls, books, potion bottles, broken shields, an axe.
That's really cool. If somebody buys the Thanos giant figurine, he can hold it, and you can put one of his heralds inside of it.
Oh, you mean the Galactus?
Galactus. Sorry, I tried.
Yeah,
they're purple. They're purple. They're big. Give me a break.
That's true. They're gear until you dissolve, and then they are just artifacts. That's correct.
Sure. I like. That's cool.
That's pretty cool.
I've seen concepts for dungeons where it's like, oh, why is a gelatinous cube in here? It's like, oh yeah, some wizard set one up. They drew one in so that it would just be a Roomba and just clean the dungeon floors endlessly.
Oh, good call.
Yeah.
Yeah, that keeps everything nice and swept. But you were saying, Alan, I didn't mean to interrupt your tirade.
The cookie gate.
Oh, I done forgot. I'll be honest, I done forgot. I mean, I've been in my mind, I've already had 11 different conversations. I've moved on. I'm back to. I was actually sitting here trying to figure out what would be the best action figure to put in the cube. And for some reason, I just think that it would be funny to have Quick Kick from G.I. Joe in there. And I don't know why. Maybe it's because when you saw him introduced in that one cartoon, it was in the snow and stuff. So
could be. It could also be your subconscious because he was killed in issue number 109 by the Saw Viper.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Who could forget?
Yeah.
Now that's true. Right there. That's not a bad recommendation at all. That might be fitting punishment.
I'm trying to think. Spider-Man figurines, he's usually reaching out, even though he's, whipping. So that might be good.
Well, they set him up so that you can pretty much put any action figure from their normal action figure line in there. You could put a Power Ranger, a G.I. Joe guy.
A Power Ranger would be funny.
It would work well for a Power Ranger. But no, I'm excited for that. It's the dumbest thing in the world, but I saw it and I knew immediately I had to have it. On the back of the box, I'll embiggen myself again here, but on the back of the box, you can see that's actually a photo with a action figure floating in there.
That's pretty cool.
So that's pretty darn cool.
Yeah.
So, okay, Lisa, I've got to ask.
Yes.
I got mine. Did you get yours?
I think actually a couple of them got damaged, so no.
You take Justin's and then tell him his got damaged.
Poor no, that's so mean.
The amount of controversy that comic book has stirred up is amazing. People cannot fathom why in the world they put an Avengers cover on Amazing Spider-Man number 17 because it's confusing as heck. People think they're buying an Avengers book and it's Amazing Spider-Man 17.
That did take us a minute to sort with unboxing and just looking at it.
Yeah, and it's throwing off everybody. People are complaining so hard, and I mean I get it. It's weird, but some of their other books that they're doing those kind of covers for, they're doing that for. One of them is the Infinity Gauntlet cover. Well, there's no Infinity Gauntlet book, so what are you going to put it on? Fantastic Four, they could put on Fantastic Four. Their Avengers could have gone on Avengers. Hulk go on Hulk. I don't know why they couldn't put that on a different book. Why they chose to do them all on Amazing Spider-Man.
Thanks, James.
There's a cynical thread. James says, bless you.
I appreciate it.
There's a cynical thread that says that that's Marvel artificially bumping up their numbers on Amazing Spider-Man because that's supposed to be their flagship book and its numbers are down in the toilet because nobody is interested in the garbage that they're putting out in Amazing Spider-Man right now.
Oh, that's a shame.
It's not good, and it's got John Romita Jr. on art too, so it's like a double turnoff. So they're trying to boost flagging numbers artificially by doing this with this cover.
Now,
I don't know that I 100% buy that theory, but it does have a lot of merit.
You can't confirm or deny, but it sounds pretty good.
Is the
I cannot confirm or deny. Do what?
You know what? I would be as willing to go as far as say, yeah, it's 100% true, knowing them. But the Infinity Gauntlet, is that the one that's got? Is that going to be a Spider-Man book also?
They all are. It's
they all are.
It's every other number for Spider-Man. So number ASM 19 is the Incredible Hulk with the Goofy. ASM 21 is the Fantastic Four #1 cover, and then 23 is the Infinity Gauntlet.
So is that why some of those new are showing like a June and July release date?
Yep.
Because the one with Mickey Mouse as Iron Man, where he's in the Iron Man pose, that one's great. I love that one. But the Infinity Gauntlet, I want an entire cover of Spider-Goof. He looked awesome as Spider-Man.
That would be a good one.
Like
maybe
a run of Disney ones where it's different, a Disney character in the costume or as each one. That'd be really cute.
Yeah, I can see Spider-Goof with that Amazing Spider-Man 300 or 301 cover.
Yep.
That Todd McFarlane cover. That would be pretty awesome. I would dig it. But were you going to show off your comics you got this week, Alan?
Yeah, we can do that.
You look like that's where you were going. And you're wearing the shirt for it, so I figured there was something to it.
Josh, magically disappear me.
Do what?
HR must go back to the land of HR.
Yeah, you go bake them cookies and sway some more opinions.
And win.
Now that I know that the game is rigged, I know how to play it.
I'll dedicate the unboxing of prize to you. Oh, he cut me off. I'll dedicate the unboxing to you,
Sorry,
Alan.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Kaylisa.
Thank you. Bye.
So I'm actually going to save this one for last because that'll segue into the throwback. So we're actually going to go back to back. Well, kind of back to back. We will start off with Gunslinger number 16. So Gunslinger 16, we pretty much have a full comic with a new character. I believe his first appearance was in 15. His name is Focus. I'm really liking that character. Have you read it yet, Josh?
No, I haven't read Gunslinger Spawn.
There is an interesting backstory in there that they're going to have to cover. Gunslinger Spawn has been solid through and through. But this new character, Focus, he's basically a speedster, super fast, except unlike, say, like The Flash and some of these others, we actually see him get tired in this book. We actually see him kind of get winded, which, that was kind of refreshing.
Yeah, it is a little refreshing because those guys run all day, but they don't seem to ever burn any calories or get tired.
Yeah, I think at one point he runs off with a character and he deposits them like 400 miles away and he's back. And then he has to do it again. And then he's back and he's kind of standing there going, phew. And even Gunslinger makes the comment about him getting winded. Next up on my list, and I was not expecting this one just kind of flew under the radar. So if this was highly anticipated with anybody, sorry, no offense. I had no idea this was coming out or what it was going to be about, but I grabbed it anyway. Spawn Unwanted Violence. Wow. I was not expecting this. This was a great story. Yes, it is a thick book. It's going to be one of the few times that we don't see Spawn at $2.99. This one's actually $4.99, but fantastic story.
It's also nothing but glare at the moment. There you go.
Oh, there we go. How's that? A little better?
That's better.
But literally, basically, the whole gist of this is, I believe we are kind of a side story for the whole, was it Psalms 137 group that Spawn's having to deal with. Children are getting hurt and Spawn basically unleashes Freak and puts him on a mission. And there's, for anybody that read it when it came out, there was one particular issue of The Punisher. I think it was called Remember the Children or something like that. Where Punisher does something to the parents in the basement of the house. You'll kind of get that vibe with this one. It's really good. Yes, it is a little dark, but for the subject matter, it needs to be dark.
Chris, what's happening?
Yeah, this is a really good one. Next issue comes out next month. I hope the next issue is oversized. And a lot of y'all are going to know exactly what I'm going to talk about. For as in-depth as this story is, it's not wordy. I mean, you can literally fly through this book, and it's still a great story. So yeah, I highly
Speaking
recommend.
of not wordy, this week's issue of Batgirls, Batgirls number 14, I think, is a silent issue, just like G.I. Joe number 21 was.
Oh wow!
So yeah, if anybody's inclined to check that out, if you kind of dig that idea of telling a story with no dialogue or description, just 100% relying on the art to tell the story, Batgirls number 14 is going to do that.
So I might have to check that one out then. Batman and Joker, Deadly Duo number 3.
Man, yes.
So was it just me, or for those of you that are not reading it, yes, that is the Joker wearing that funky mask. There is a reason why he's wearing that funky mask. But when Batman unzips the eyes and unzips the mouth so he can interrogate him, did Joker not look freakier there than he has ever looked in any book?
Absolutely, he did.
Even with the cut off face. I mean, saw that page, I was kind of like, oh wow, okay, that's a little disturbing.
Hey, Chris, that's a great question. They used to do it a lot in comics. You'd see like the 80-page giants and the 100-page giants. That was pretty common back in the 60s, particularly. These days, it's kind of random. It's usually on a big issue like a number 700 or 800 or something like that. In this case, it's a different series. It's just a different story, and it is it's a limited series, and it's a shorter number of issues, so each issue has got more in it.
Yeah, and I was looking to see if there was an actual page count, and there's not. But if that gives you any idea, it's definitely a thicker comic. But they definitely used the high quality paper. I mean, pretty much what Spawn comics are known for, just more of it.
He looks freakier, not stupider.
Yeah.
He looks completely unhinged, because it's one of those odd times where he's like having a genuinely good time, and he's genuinely, sincerely happy. Joker is, and it's super creepy, especially in context, because it just doesn't make any sense, and yet it's so perfectly Joker. That's really good.
My favorite thing on that was when they dive out of the Batwing and they're parachuting in. And yes, Batman is front and center, but if you look at Joker, he's got his parachute on and his hands are shackled together, and he's got the biggest smile on his face. He is just as happy as he can possibly be.
And it's not the creepy Joker smile where he's going to mess somebody up. It's him like enjoying that moment for all that it's worth. Like a little kid, when you throw them up in the air and they giggle because they just love the sensation. He has that look on his face. Like he is just enjoying life. And for once, it's not for some horrible reason because he's doing something bad to people.
Yeah, and this particular issue, how many was going to be in this?
Hang on a minute. We got it. Phil, what is happening, Blue Hellion? What's up? How's Nebraska? Hope it's well.
I bet it's cold.
I bet it is. Down here, for anybody not from here, Blue Hellion, Chris, you guys, here's what our weather's been like lately. Cold. Tornadoes. Really, really cold. 70 degrees. Tornadoes. Crazy thunderstorms. Normal temperatures for April in January. That's where we are right now. So it's just ridiculous.
Which roughly translated means about 8 inches of snow for Easter.
Yes, yeah. And welcome to Huntsville.
But yeah, for those of y'all not keeping up with this book, this is where in book issue 3 is where you really start to find out why things are happening.
What's actually going on? Yes.
Yeah, what's actually going on, and the build up to it, and it's been perfect. I mean, they couldn't have done the build up better.
The pacing has been very good.
Yeah, it has not been rushed. It has not been too slow. There's been parts of it where you'll actually laugh out loud at the Joker, because it's I mean, honestly, Harley's been kidnapped. The Joker's not happy because in his mind, someone has taken his things, and that's the way he views it. But he genuinely seems happy to be teaming with Batman, and that's what makes it so great.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
What did you think of the puzzle and the outcome of solving the puzzle?
I never would have guessed it. I thought it was brilliant the way it was written. The ultimate outcome of the puzzle, but I really wished he hadn't have thought to himself what he thought. I really wished he would have given the answer and just let that be that, almost like he agreed with what the outcome should be.
I kind of agree with you.
Yeah,
but it was totally in character for him to do what he did and think what he thought.
Yeah. Yeah, but no, the puzzle was honestly, the puzzle is probably the best part of this issue as far as the story is concerned. I did like the whole graveyard scene where you're kind of piecing it together what's really going on and the conversation that Bruce has with this guy. I thought
what you think about that nasty freaky bat?
The what?
The nasty freaky bat.
Oh yeah, that for whatever reason that really reminded me of that that thing from it was on one of the covers of Dark Knight's Death Metal.
Yep.
That dragon, that's what it reminded me of.
It was pretty hideous. Right.
It was definitely freaky.
Yeah, imagine if you had a bat hanging out in the bat cave and it ate a piece of a weird mutated Joker filled with like the Bane's venom stuff and something else. And so that bat became this weird mutated Joker venom bat, Bane bat. It was gross. It was nasty. But it was also cool. If you're not reading this story, you ought to be reading the story. It's so good.
I'll tell you what,
you gonna show people?
I've got the book right here. I'll just open it up right quick and kind of give you all an idea of what we're talking about. Because it's like literally right in front. The first couple of pages is where you really see it. Oh, and I don't know why I loved these 2 pages right here.
Because they're awesome.
I mean, him on his knees. I mean, it's guys, if y'all are not reading this, number one, you're missing a great story. But number 2, the art.
Mark Silvestri's art is like he loved every minute of drawing Batman.
Yep. Where is that thing at?
It is close to the beginning. I know that.
There it is. I think that might be like the best shot of it. There's one more, but I think
there's a panel that shows like the whole body, not just its face. But yeah, it's grotesque.
Yeah, you can kind of see it some right there, and then right there where my finger is.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Look at that. That's nasty.
But
that's so nasty.
This right here, this back picture, but this saying is straight out of the book. This is literally what the villain of the book says to Batman. And at the time that he says it, you feel that. I mean, you're just kind of, well, crap.
Well, and he's right, too, though. That's the thing. That's exactly what Batman thought. Batman thinks that he can walk into any scenario and that he can gain complete mastery over it immediately. And he couldn't. He thought he could. He thought he could solve it, and he couldn't. And that was...
you are freezing up and everything. But one... Wait a minute, I think you're back. Yeah, a graboid with teeth. Yep. But in this series, we actually have a very smart villain. Well, it's not just your typical bad guy. Yes. I mean, this villain is highly intellectual, and it's definitely going to, since now that we know somewhat of what's going on, it's definitely going to make the rest of it more fun. It come out last week, and y'all knew it was going to be on the list. Daredevil #7.
So good.
So here's my thing on Daredevil 7. I got about maybe 5 or 6 pages into it, and I was thinking, okay, this is going to be a good filler issue. I mean, we can't just jump straight to him, facing off with Frank. No, it's not a good filler issue. It's a good standalone issue. I mean, the whole thing between the conversations between him and Bullet,
so good.
And then Bullet go out. That it made the entire issue was just those conversations, and you get a better understanding of who Bullet is. I like that they've taken some of these obscure characters and made them into somebody, and then the way that it ended.
Well, for anybody not reading this book, one of the things that he has done is he broke into the raft and he broke out a bunch of prisoners, a handful of prisoners. And these are not, he didn't rescue Captain America. He didn't rescue Spider-Man. These are legit villains. These are bad guys. They've been bad guys in the Marvel Universe forever. And they're random, obscure people like Bullet, Scream with the Carnage symbiote. Who else? A Turner D. Century, for crying out loud. I mean, just the most random assortment of villains. And this is the gift that good writers have. Mm-hmm. He makes them interesting people, and he makes you care about them. And so you see, he's trying to say, look, you guys keep committing crimes. I keep beating you up. You keep going to jail, and this cycle isn't changing. You need to be released from that cycle. You need to stand on your own. And he's trying to rehabilitate them for real, like give them an opportunity to stand on their own 2 feet. And he's doing all of that while also trying to prepare to go to war with the Ninja Clan, the Hand, who is led now by Frank freaking Castle, the Punisher. And things are just coming to a head now in this story, and it's so good.
And that closing monologue where he knows what he's got to do, they're ringing the bell, and he's basically, hey, we're not ready. It's just we're not ready, but you know what? Evil's always ready. So yeah, I mean that was just more brilliant writing by Zdarsky.
Dude is good, and if you're only going to read 3 comics right now that are coming out on the stands today, 2 of them need to be Zdarsky books. You need to be reading Daredevil, and you need to be reading Batman.
So a little birdie.
I strongly recommend reading more than 3, by the way, because so many others are so good. Fantastic Four, so freaking good.
Yep.
Nightwing, for the love of all things holy, you should be reading Nightwing.
Before I move on, I do want to say this. If you have missed the boat on Zdarsky's run of Batman, a little birdie told me that they're getting ready to release, I think it might be a hardcover.
They are.
I know this fella in Madison that could probably get his hands on that for y'all. Highly recommend it. I mean, if you're curious as to what you have not been reading Batman, and you're curious as to what Josh and I have been talking about, now is the perfect time, because that thing had amazing sales. I mean, it literally flew for them to publish as many hardcovers as they're getting ready to publish for this. So you don't have an excuse. You can't say, I can't find the books. They're all getting ready to come out in one little collected works.
Yeah, their print run on this is significantly higher than normal because they know they've got a gold mine on their hands.
Yep. So for my last new book, we're going with Wildcats 3. So this was not a good story, but it was not a bad story. This book reminded me of why I loved comic books in the 90s. Because ultimately, you had 2 guys that didn't like each other. One of them smarted off, and the other one punched him, and they got into a fight. And I mean, sometimes that's just all you needed. I was actually laughing at this book. I mean, when Grifter's walking away going, oh, yeah, I'm probably going to hit him again. And then when Grifter is actually getting close to fighting, actually he does start fighting Talon, but Void needs him somewhere else, and he's arguing with Void. I'm not going, and she pulls him out anyway. I mean, to me, it was the equivalent of a child says they're not going to do something, and Mama jerked them up anyway.
Oh yeah,
and I thought it was great. Which actually leads me to my throwback picks of the week.
Throwback picks.
Yeah, we got 2 of them. So, like I said, that book reminded me why I enjoyed comic books in the 90s so much. And the 90s gave us something that we did not know we were getting. I mean, literally, the 90s gave birth of Image, Top Cow. There was another smaller one called Maximum Press. I mean, they were all kind of spinning off of that. And the 90s, there was a time during the 90s that literally changed the entire industry when it comes to art alone. And that
I appreciate you opening up the door to talk about the Malibu Ultraverse.
Oh, the Malibu
Ultraverse. Talk about that
yeah.
forever. Let's talk about that.
So, well,
oh, you were not going to talk about that. You're talking about something else. Got it.
Yeah, no, we're not talking about Prime just yet. But I went digging through because I do have. I'm so bad. I've got probably 11 boxes of Image and Top Cow and Maximum Press comics, and they're, believe it or not, those are the only boxes that are actually alphabetized in order, whole 9 yards.
100% believe it.
And I don't know why. I've always loved those comics. So I couldn't decide which one, so I went with 2 of them. We're going to go with Witchblade #1, The Saga Begins. The art, I mean, just fantastic art. I remember when these books came out. These books, literally, I bought the day they hit the shelves when they first come out. These are not dollar bin finds. These were cover price 30 years ago. God, it sounds so bad saying 30 years ago.
It does a bit.
But, yeah, Michael Turner. I mean, you can't go wrong.
We lost. Talk about people we lost way too early. Michael Turner was one of them. Holy cow. And speaking of people we lost, moment of silence for Jason Pearson.
That one was shocking.
52 years old, phenomenal comic book artist. Dude was incredible. Yeah, we lost him apparently back in December, but they didn't let anybody know until this past week. He was Gaijin Studios out of Atlanta. So he was, for all intents and purposes, a local boy. Raise a glass, pour one out for Jason Pearson. He was a great artist, gone way too soon.
Yep. And then the final throwback pick of the week. It's such a plain cover.
Oh, I loved that one.
But it's such a brilliant cover. And the thing about this was in the 90s, when we were getting these, the art on the inside looked exactly the same.
Yep.
I mean, the 90s were just a great era. I mean, literally those guys, Gaijin Studios, Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, two of the
Mark Silvestri.
Yeah, Mark Silvestri, Brett
Will
Booth.
Portacio, Jim Valentino, Rob Liefeld.
Yeah, I mean, they were doing things that we really and truly had not seen. They were giving us a level of detail that we were not used to. Now,
the Kubert brothers were at Marvel.
Yep.
At the time, and they were tearing it up. And then you had guys like Norm Brayfogle over at when Malibu Ultra first was going. He had left Batman, which was his run on Batman was spectacular, and then he did Prime at Ultraverse. Phenomenal guy. We lost him in 2014, thereabouts, something like that. It's awful, but a phenomenal artist. Yeah, the 90s were a time for great art in comics.
Yeah, I find it funny that right now, Spawn is almost a household name. You're going to be hard-pressed to find somebody who's not at least heard of Spawn, or they see the character and they're like, oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about. I remember a time when I was having to explain to someone what a Spawn was. I remember when this come out and it was like, okay, who is this and why is that on her hand? What's this all about? You know, I mean, these characters, believe it or not, I mean, they've withstood the test of time. I'm looking, you know, Witchblade, not as much as Spawn, but hey, guess what? Witchblade had her own TV show at one point. Witchblade's had several miniseries that have come out. Velocity was in the latest issues. What was it? Was it 10 or 12 issues of Cyberforce that came out a couple of years ago?
Mm-hmm.
And Velocity was in it. Now they did kind of revamp a few things, but still the story worked and it was still a fun story. You know, I mean, there's characters that I wish that they would bring back. I mean, there's characters that I would like to see again. Backlash.
Ripclaw is one of those characters.
Oh yeah,
Ripclaw was Mark Silvestri's answer to Wolverine, and he was freaking awesome. Backlash, yeah, I would love to see him. He was awesome too.
Yeah, I remember when Ripclaw first came out, and everybody was like, "Oh, it's just a Wolverine ripoff," and then the second they read issue 1, it was like, oh, yeah, no, this dude's awesome. I love him. I got to have more.
That's exactly what it was. He's not a ripoff. He just has the traits that you liked about Wolverine applied to a different character in a different world.
Yep.
With his own character, own motivations, all that stuff. So, yeah, I get that.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see them bring some of those characters back. Pitt.
See, that's a good one.
I mean, it's a boy and his alien. You can't go wrong.
Oh, Pitt was good. Dale Keown on Pitt. Pitt was very good. I mean, that was a Hulk book, right? Essentially.
Yep.
But
Backlash.
I like Cyberforce.
Mm-hmm.
Backlash was a good one. That came along a little bit later than the others. That wasn't one of the day one kind of Image books. I tell you, it's hard to beat X-Men in the 90s. If you read the X-Men from, say, 89, 90 through mid 95, go all the way to the end of the Age of Apocalypse story, it was just pure genius that whole time. It's Pitt, P-I-T-T. Look up Dale Keown, Keown. He was the artist, and he's the creator of Pitt. You know, a lot of people, it was never my bag. A lot of people loved that Joe Madureira book back in the 90s. What was that called?
Which one was it?
Battle Chasers. Remember?
You broke up real bad.
Battle Chasers, the Madureira book?
I don't remember that one.
Battle Chasers.
Oh, Battle Chasers.
Joe Madureira book.
No, I didn't read that one.
I didn't read it either. It was never my bag. The art was very manga looking to me. I didn't care for it. But a lot of people loved it, and he never did finish it. He ended up going on to do art on video games and such. He tried to make a comeback in comics a couple years ago, but people had forgotten him except for really old school people, and they were like, "Yeah, you never finished your series, so finish that, and then we'll talk."
This is I mean, this right here is Pitt. I mean, I figure I'd pull up a couple of pictures of it so you could kind of get an idea of what it looked like. But I mean, you can't go wrong. A boy and his alien. I mean, it was just fun.
That was so. I'm telling you, Dale Keown's art style back in the day was just so good. His style now looks a little bit more. What's the word I'm looking for? Everything's a little bit more stiff. It's not as organic looking as his old stuff used to be. It reminds me more of Barry Kitson, if you remember the artist Barry Kitson. Battle Chasers introduced us to Red Monica. Yes, you are correct.
Those when they started all that back then with Image and all that, they were dialed in. They knew exactly what they wanted as far as a look was concerned, and I mean, they nailed it.
Do you remember there was a lot of question about, okay, yeah, you guys are starting your company, but you're never going to last, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't know how to tell stories. You're not going to last. Do you remember the the gimmick that they came up with, where they each wrote uh, and did the 25th issue of the series, like at issue number 12? Jim Lee would write Mark Silvestri's issue 25, and Mark Silvestri would write Todd McFarlane's issue 25 for Spawn. And they did that to show that we have a story. We know where we're going. We swear we're going to get from where we are now to here in a
Yeah.
year and a half. Just give us, or in another year, just give us a year. We're going to get there. And so they published issue 25 like a year early to show that they were going to get there.
Yeah, I remember them doing that. And then what was I might end up getting the character's name wrong, but it was I believe it was a Marvel thing where they had the artist sitting there and he basically drew Overkill. And then like about a year later, we see in Image Comics and we see Overt Kill. And it was
yeah,
the
that was
character.
Yeah, that was in Spawn. That was Todd McFarlane came up with that. Yeah, Overkill got changed to Overt Kill. I remember that in not Todd McFarlane, in Rob Liefeld's book, he had the big Thing character that was supposed to be like Ben Grimm, and his name was Bedrock.
Yep.
But the Flintstones people said you can't do that, and so he changed it to Bad Rock. Just goofy stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that really helped them and the reason why they were able to last and to basically go on and do exactly what they wanted to do was they were away from that Marvel box. They were away from the DC box. There was no constraints. They didn't have an image to live up to. They didn't have to worry about brand recognition. They could go do their own thing, and it just worked.
Well, and they weren't, for good or for ill, that's one of the times where there was a significant shift in the market that really pushed comics away from being all ages books, right?
Mm-hmm.
The X-Men might have some harsh stuff in it, but you could still read it as a kid. You get into some questionable things with the Hellfire Club and some of those kind of deals. But for the most part, you could read the X-Men. You could let your kid read the X-Men and not think anything of it. When Image books came out, they took a pretty dark turn, and they were very focused on adults only, like older teenage boys and adults. That's who they were looking at. And so that's one of those key moments where comics moved an inch further, a mile further, however far, away from being all ages friendly books in general.
Yeah.
That took kids out of the market. So it was a big thing then. And I mean, look at the premise behind Jim Valentino's Shadowhawk, for example. Right? He was the first superhero who had AIDS.
Mm-hmm.
So, but his whole mission was, I'm ticked off about that. So when he catches bad guys, instead of killing them like the Punisher, he wants them to suffer. So he would just break their backs. He would break their spine and leave them as paralyzed.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, wasn't
definitely not kids. You can't let your kid read that book. That's just a dude torturing people.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't Backlash pretty much a self-professed womanizer at one point? I mean, Backlash got around.
Yeah.
And then I remember, oh God, because I never laughed harder at comic book nerds because everybody was ordering 2 copies. They literally
of everything.
Well, not just that, but I can't remember what number it was, but it was Savage Dragon. And there was 2 different versions of the book. There was the rated version and the unrated version. And I think the only difference was a shower scene. And I think somebody might have dove out of the building naked or something. But you didn't see anything because of the way their body was positioned. But everybody was ordering 2 copies of that book because it was going to be unrated.
Dude, do you remember when we all had to have at least 5 copies of X-Men #1? because it had
Yep.
that gatefold cover, and you got gate cover A, B, C, and D. You put them together, and it made one big image. And issue number 5 had the gatefold that folded out, or the 5th version of issue number 1. So every last one of us bought 6 copies of that book, so we could have the full set pristine, and then so we could read one.
Yep.
Because we were insane.
It was the same thing with Death of Superman. Everybody bought 2 copies.
Oh yeah, because that book's going to be worth $1 million.
Oh God, yeah. One never going to open that bag. Well, guess what? If you leave it in the bag, you're probably going to be closer to actually ruining the book.
Yep, the acid from the bag etches into the cover.
Yep. Yeah, I mean,
that Superman book now is worth about $10.
Yeah, and just like, I mean, I actually know somebody that bought 10 copies of Spawn #1 because it was not Kyle.
I'm doing Kyle.
Because it was just going to be huge. It was going to be the biggest book of all time. And I think for years that book was like $9 or $10. And you could sell it. The problem was, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. The problem was you could not sell it for $9 or $10 because everybody and their brother already had 2 copies of it.
Yep.
So in my mind, at that point, is it really a $10 book if everybody's got a copy?
At this point, I mean, that's the only #1 out of all the Image books, out of literally all of them, that has held its value and is still sought after. And I think one of the reasons for that is because the series has always run. It never stopped.
Yep.
All these other series collapsed, right? Jim Lee sold Wildstorm off to DC. Mark Silvestri quit printing. He just Cyberforce went away, Witchblade went away, The Darkness went away, all those went away. And so they're not in the social consciousness anymore. Spawn has maintained a spot in the social consciousness, has enjoyed a resurgence in the past year or two as it was coming up on issue number 300. And so Spawn #1 still carries some value.
See, I wish Jim Lee would bring back Stormwatch.
Well, they've tried that at DC a couple of times. It just hasn't worked. When Stormwatch first came out, it was really good. Was it really controversial?
Yeah,
a little bit. It definitely was a little bit.
But
it was just kind of so out there. And it was, of all of the books that Image put out right there at the beginning, I think it was also the least popular. He had a cool look, don't get me wrong. Shadowhawk looked cool. But the story was just kind of dark and seemed kind of pointless because how are you going to beat that? What are you going to do? And so it never really went anywhere. Jim Valentino was a freaking genius, though. That guy ended up becoming kind of the head of Image Comics, the publisher, the guy at the top of Image Comics. People don't understand what Image is. And you heard Alan talking earlier about Top Cow and Wildstorm and Todd McFarlane Productions and all that stuff, Maximum Press. Those were all imprints through the Image umbrella. Image was the publisher. Those were the creative houses. So they owned all the rights to the stuff that was printed or published under their names. And Jim Valentino was one of the people who had something under that Image umbrella, and that was Shadowhawk. But he went on to kind of, when he put an end to that, he went on to take over the reins at the top of the Image umbrella and did a phenomenal job of making Image a real honest-to-goodness force to be reckoned with in the comics publishing industry. When all the original creators, they're not putting books out through Image anymore for the most part, and yet Image is still a name brand that gets a lot of recognition. And that's largely thanks to the unsung effort of Jim Valentino.
Yeah, and as far as being controversial, I don't really remember it being controversial, but there was, and I had to look it up, there was another one, and it was, I believe the name of the company was Lightning Comics, but the character's name was Bloodfire. And literally I'm going to read this. The debut of the superhero Bloodfire. Critically wounded in battle, Marine Brian Reese is given an experimental formula that gives him superpowers as well as flammable blood and a deadly HIV infection. He becomes the secret agent known as Bloodfire. And yes, I have that comic book at the house. So there was actually a couple of them. But Shadowhawk was the first one.
I'm just looking at Chris's reaction to that.
Yeah.
Dude, the 90s were a chaotic time. We're talking Brian Pulido coming out with Lady Death and Evil Ernie.
See, I never
Jim
got
Ballant left Catwoman and started doing that tarot, whatever that porn book is that he's been doing ever since. It was anything goes, really. It was the Wild West as far as topics, subject matter, and anything you could turn into a superhero, man, you could do it.
And let me tell you what, nobody cared about anybody's feelings or if they was going to stir up any controversy. They just threw it out there, and it was because, here's the thing. If you didn't like the book, it didn't matter. Another number one was going to come out the next week for somebody else. You would just jump to that book.
Yep.
It was, we literally had our pick of anything. That was when I started falling in love with independent comics. And I realized that independent comics could do whatever they wanted to do.
Do you remember when Dark Horse launched their, Legendary, I think they called it, their Legendary line? It had the kind of Easter Island head was the emblem for those books. And they brought over Mike Mignola and John Byrne and Frank Miller. And that's how we got Sin City and Hellboy. And the books John Byrne did, he did The Next Men, which was so good. He also did another book that was kind of like the Fantastic Four, which was also really good. But Sin City and Hellboy came out of that. That was them saying to these creators, come over here, do your own thing. It's creator owned. You own it. We're just going to print it, publish it. But you own it. And that's how we got some of the really great creations that came out of the 90s was through that imprint. And during the 90s, too, you also had Valiant pop up. Dude, that stuff was awesome. Harbinger was amazing. XO Man of War was incredible. Turok came back. Dr. Solar, Man of the Atom. Magnus Robot Fighter. All that stuff coming out of Valiant. That was really good. Jim Shooter was over there running the show. We talked a little bit kind of jokingly about Malibu Ultraverse. Malibu Ultraverse was incredible.
Yep.
That was so freaking good. Nightman, The Strangers, Prototype, Hard Case, Mantra. They were all phenomenal. They were so good that Marvel bought them and locked them up in a closet never to be seen again. And I think that's because Marvel was kind of scared of them, honestly.
And to and I've heard a lot of people make fun of them. We're after 8 o'clock. I can say this. I've heard a lot of people call them booby books. Those really started in the 90s with your characters like Lady Death and like Vampirella.
That's where that started, really.
Yeah, but honestly, if you go back,
Vampirella had been around since the late 60s.
Yeah, but they had brought her. They really brought her back to prominence in the 90s. Because if you go through and read that Vengeance of Vampirella series, that Vengeance of Vampirella series was friggin' awesome. The writing was perfect. The characters, all of it was just great. Yeah, sometimes I do kind of look at people funny because I'll see them like flipping through a dollar box and they'll pass by these 90s comics and not pay them any bit of attention. And I'm sitting there thinking, you literally just passed probably one of the best comics you're ever going to read. And it's because nobody really wants half of them. Freak Force was another fun one by Image Comics. They put out some great content. So, yeah, go dig through the dollar boxes at your LCS. Go dig underneath the counters and everything. You're going to find those books.
And And one of the reasons you'll find them is because, like Alan said, everybody was buying multiple copies at the time. And so the value of them just was never there because there were too many of them in the marketplace.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a real shame because there were some really great books. And I will say what really happened in the early 90s, there was an explosion of awesomeness and this proliferation of great comics. And then in 96, 97, it kind of just took a turn. And for like 5 years, comics just didn't put out anything good. Marvel declared bankruptcy. Things were just ugly for about 5 years.
That whole Heroes World thing really hurt Marvel and really hurt your local comic book stores.
For sure.
And I know comic book stores in this area in the 90s. I know of a couple of them that they actually, the only reason why they were able to keep their doors open as long as they did was because of Magic the Gathering, because of those cards. And which was really, really sad because take Comic Corner, for example, when it was on the Parkway, you would see people walk in and literally walk right past all these books that we're talking about. All the Marvel stuff that was really good at the time. The DC stuff, that they're walking right past every single bit of it just so they could go to the Magic the Gathering cards. Because that's just what everybody wanted then.
And Magic goes through these phases. It has a cycle, right? It's kind of like a sine wave where it gets really high. Everybody's interested in it. Interest drops a little bit, and then it comes back, and it just kind of does that. And it seems to have been doing that since the early 90s, for sure. I got pulled over by a cop. I worked at the comic shop in Decatur there on 6th Avenue a long time ago, and I am driving to get to work, and I am late. I just got out of class at college, and I was hot-footing it there. I got pulled over on 565 by a cop, and I'm like, man, I don't have time for this. And so I'm sitting there. This is right in front of the Madison exit there at Waltrana, right? This is on that hill before you get down to that. And he pulls me over. He comes walking up. Where are you off to in such a hurry? And I'm like, honestly, I'm on my way to work. Oh, yeah, where do you work? In Decatur at a comic book store? A comic book store? You guys have Magic cards?
Oh,
I was like, yeah, we sure do. Really? That's awesome. And he starts talking about Magic cards. And then he goes, I got a rookie in the car with me, and she knows how fast you were going. So I got to do something. I can't just let you go. And he said, is it all right if I give you a warning? And I'm like, I guess. So he wrote me a warning and left. And I got it because I worked at a comic shop that had Magic cards. So, yeah, it was helpful in many ways.
Yep.
That was good stuff.
Our thumbnail, The Terror That Flaps in the Night. When is that book coming out?
Yes, that comes out this week.
Oh, does it come out this week?
Darkwing Duck #1 came out this week.
I must have missed it.
Yeah, it's supposed to be this week.
I must have missed it then because
it's on my invoice, and we got a bunch of copies.
Yeah, I was out of town last week, but I was out of town. We left, oh my God, last Friday morning was awful. So I didn't have a chance to run by the shop, and I took a chastising by Tom Price. That's okay. I deserved it.
Giving you grief for not coming by?
Yeah, give me grief for not coming by. So every Friday when I drop Bug off at dance class, since it's pretty much right down the road, I go hang out with him for a couple hours. And, we talk comics, art, all that good stuff. So I didn't get to go Friday, and I knew that I needed to get my books read for this week's show. Last week's books read for this week's show. So I went by there Wednesday and grabbed last week's books. And now I'll still go back Friday and grab this week's books just so I can still have my 2 hours to go hang out with Tom while she's in dance class.
Why not? Why not? Did you see what he's got? For anybody who doesn't know, Tom Price is a great local comic book artist. I shouldn't limit him. He's just a good artist in general, but he's a great local comic book artist too. He does a show on, is it Sunday nights now? I think it used to be Tuesdays and he moved it to Sundays.
Yeah, moved it to Sundays.
He does a show on Sunday nights here on YouTube and Facebook for the store, where he sits in the back and he draws commissions or whatever it is that he's working on. And did you see what he's drawing this Sunday?
Is this Sunday Optimus Prime or is it?
No,
Baroness?
sir. No, sir. This Sunday is the Baroness from
Yeah, I knew Baroness was coming up.
This Sunday, he is drawing her.
Did he tell you about the idea that I had for a new show on YouTube? It can only be played on YouTube.
He did not.
Oh, so if anybody that's watching knows Tom, y'all really need to talk to him about this. So my idea is he sits there and he draws kids' drawings, like little kitty cartoons and stuff. And I sit beside him, except the entire time we're dressed up like clowns. And every time he says the magic word of the day, I just sit there and toot a horn and I never say anything else. And we named the show, oh crap, what was it? We named the show Doodlebugs. He didn't like that idea. I don't know why. I thought it would be a smash hit.
That's hysterical.
I was like, I'm never going to say a word. You do all the talking. You say the magic
that
word.
That would be classic comic book there. That'll be classic comic. That's not going to be Baroness. Classic is best.
Yep.
Yeah. No, and Tom, that's how that's going to be. I thought you were going to call your show Bubbles and Squeak.
Bubbles and Squeak? No, but that would be a good one too.
I just like the idea of you sitting there in a clown outfit and clown makeup and you do nothing except occasionally toot. That's funny.
Yeah, that's all I'll ever do. I mean, it's just we'll like do a graphic that says what the magic word of the day is, and every time he says it, I'll toot a horn. But I want one of those like ones that's got the ball on the end of it, so it's like that.
I thought you meant like you were gonna have a sousaphone or something, or a trombone.
My daughter does have a trombone. I could borrow it.
There you go.
Like every time he has to erase something, I go wah wah wah.
There you go. It's perfect. He would get so mad. He'd be so angry.
He would. So if anybody sees Tom, ask him when the first episode of Doodlebugs is.
Tell him you're excited to see it. Even better. Tell him you're excited to see the first episode of Doodlebugs because you think that sounds great.
If we could just get him to film one episode and we do that, I would be happy and content. Because it was one of those nights where, and if anybody goes, and I do suggest y'all tune in on Sunday nights to watch his show because he'll like explain what he's doing and what he's
it's like a little art class while he's doing it, right? It's pretty cool.
Yeah, think of like the comic book version of Bob Ross. But
happy little accidents.
Yeah, I'll get on there on Sunday nights and I'll get in the chat on YouTube and do everything I can to derail the process. Everything I can.
I've noticed.
I mean, there was one night, it's generally about an hour and a half show. There was one night I got him so sidetracked. It took him over 3 hours and he still didn't finish the drawing. He actually had to finish it later on.
That was so funny.
But that was the night. I think it was the next week I come up with the Doodlebugs idea. So, but yeah, if y'all, and honestly, it's Sunday night. What else are you doing on Sunday nights? There's really nothing on TV. So hang out with us and help me derail him because it becomes quite funny when he has to stop like in mid drawing and then turn to the camera to argue with me I got him. He was drawing something one night and I got him so far down the original manga art style rabbit hole that he could not finish what he was drawing. And what he was drawing I know, it was so much fun. But what he was drawing had nothing to do with what we were talking about. So it was forcing him to think on 2 different levels with art. I had a blast that night. I'm gonna be honest with y'all.
Oh, I bet that's awesome. That's a lot of fun. It is fun to watch because you'll get under. He'll be fine. He'll be fine. He'll be fine. And you can see the minute that you get under his skin or you flip that switch, and he's like, "God dang it! Now I have to address this." Because he just stops, and there's that quiet look where eyes could just kind of, okay, look.
And then you can tell when I'm really messing with him, because about the time that he kind of gets off on a little bit of a tangent, he'll go back to drawing, and then he will keep talking about whatever I've gotten him off on. And then I will turn around and ask him a legitimate art question just so he has to switch gears again.
It's like you're a thorn in his side, but you move around, so he can't ever quite get at it to get rid of it. Dude, yes, the reindeer games are a hoot. Because anytime we've got a show coming up, you should check it out because they're always fun.
I mean, the night that I was telling him that the original American manga, the original American anime was actually G.I. Joe. Oh yeah, that one went downhill quick. And then he started, he was like, well, I watched this and I watched this and I watched Battle of the Planets and I watched Voltron and I watched this. And I went, yeah, but I watched them when they first aired. I didn't watch them years later on VHS tape. So respect your elders.
So that brings up a good question. Do you have the G.I. Joe cartoon series?
No,
digitally or on disc or something.
Surprisingly, that series is actually still pretty expensive. I do have the movie, yeah, you can't go wrong with Cobra la 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 la. I mean, that's just great.
And also, what's his face? Johnson.
Don Johnson.
Don Johnson. Wasn't he Lieutenant Falcon?
Yeah, he was Falcon, and he had basically he had messed up again, so they sent him to Sergeant Slaughter's boot camp. Yeah, I mean, it was just good stuff.
It was great stuff. Cobra Law. Let's talk about that for a second. Cobra Law. What were your thoughts about Cobra Law? You remember when the action figures came out? And you had the weird guy. It was like a bald-headed dude, the top half, and then his bottom half was a snake. Yep. Then you had the Nemesis Enforcer.
Nemesis
I forget what the other.
I think was probably the best character that they come out with
by far.
I was kind of torn over the whole Cobra Law thing.
The whole idea of it.
Do what?
The whole idea of it.
Yeah, I was torn. I mean, I understand the idea. I understand the concept of it, but Cobra Law would have never sent an idiot like Cobra Commander.
Nope.
I mean, it would have been an entirely different scenario if they sent Nemesis Enforcer or one of those guys. I liked it. It's a part of nostalgia. It's a part of my childhood. I'm not going to turn the channel if I run across it and it's on. I'm going to stop and watch it. Like I said, I own the Blu-ray. I mean, it's just something that I grew up with. If they never would have done it, do I feel like we would have missed out? No, we wouldn't have.
I'm with you 100%. I will say the name Nemesis Enforcer conjures up this image of just like a cool villain, right? And then they never did anything with him after that.
Yep.
And it's really unfortunate because he was awesome.
Trying to find a picture of him right quick.
Yeah, he was cool. Alan doing the search on the internets. Cobra La!
Cobra La 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 La!
That was so goofy, but it was great. The 80s were a pretty cool time. Any kind of weirdness happened. Oh, yes, sir. They did a G.I. Joe movie.
Mm-hmm.
They did. They did a Transformers movie, too. I don't know if you've seen that. If you haven't, you should. The Transformers movie was animated movies. Yes. Cobra Law was kind of like this fantasy world that they got pulled into, kind of. So they're not necessarily human; they're human hybrid kind of characters. You got Nemesis Enforcer there.
I hate when I click on a picture, it takes me to a site that's got an even smaller picture.
Yeah, I want to see the picture, not whatever gobbledygook you got. Yeah, Nemesis Enforcer was pretty cool.
Oh, good God Almighty!
Super tiny, not helpful.
Yeah. Not helpful at all. Google, you really need to fix this aspect.
Yep. Up your game, Google.
Let's see if we can get a better picture off of Pinterest. That's a little better.
Marginally.
Yeah, I mean, not that much, but you can actually see how much bigger he is than Sergeant Slaughter.
And Sergeant Slaughter's a big dude.
Yep.
Speaking of G.I. Joe stuff, did you see Brian Silverbacks did a picture of Big Boa yesterday?
No, huh?
Of all characters, Big Boa, for some whatever reason, anybody who doesn't know, he's Cobra's like strength and conditioning coach and boxing instructor. He's their trainer guy who made sure they were all strong and ready to kick butt. He was essentially dressed like a boxer. He had like crossed belts going across here that had metal studs on them. So if you punched him, I guess that would really hurt. And then, like all Cobra people, he wore a helmet that had this cool little, I don't know, a tube going back here. I don't know what any of that was supposed to be for, but he was cool. And he had a particular visual. And Brian Silverbacks drew him yesterday. I thought that was pretty cool.
Did he post it on Facebook?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, if you go to Silverbacks' page, you can find it pretty quick. Speaking of G.I. Joe, though, we had a guy come into the shop on Saturday, and he was kind of looking around, and he ended up signing up for a box and getting his comics, putting his comics list over there. But we're talking, and somehow the topic of G.I. Joe came up. And I saw it's right. He was checking out, and he had a tattoo. He had the Arashikaji clan symbol tattooed on his arm.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, dude. And he's like, what? It's like, your tattoo. This is awesome. And so he started talking about it. He's like, oh, yeah, big G.I. Joe fan. I'm like, in case you can't tell by looking around here, so am I. And he's like, now that you mention it, yeah, I see that. Because it was true.
Hey, and you know what? We can't get enough G.I. Joe fans.
No, especially for whenever issue 301 comes out.
Yeah, they need to do something about that.
They need to at least make an announcement so I can stop sweating. That was no good way to end a series. 300, issue 300 is a freaking cliffhanger that asks more questions than it answers. It's the last issue published by that publisher. And then they're like, oh, and by the way, to be continued. Like, that is awesome news. I'm really excited about it, but when and where?
So I'm not seeing that on his Instagram. Let's go back to Facebook. So it's on Facebook.
I said it was. It's on Facebook.
Because it's taking me to some Brian Silverback.
I'm going to try and find it.
See all photos.
Okay, that's weird. Why is it doing that? I don't want to go to a fan page. I want to go to actually his page.
Yeah, I know. That's what it was.
When you search for Brian Silverbacks in the thing, you just have to give it a second. It pops up his actual person. He's doing Bebop and Rocksteady right now from TMNT. I will say, just watching his art has just gotten better and better over the past couple of years. I don't know if it's
It
just
really
practice
has.
makes perfect or what, but he was good to start with, but it's just gotten even better. And he's a dude that loves that whole '90s era aesthetic. Uh, Come on now.
So I mean, I'm on his actual page now, and
This
I'm
is
not
why we're
seeing it.
struggling.
So let's get controversial
He
for just
posts
a
a
moment.
lot, so you got to scroll back a ways.
Yeah, well, I'm
Ooh, I
kind
like
of.
it. Let's do it.
Have you seen the commercials for the new Thelma cartoon?
You go ahead.
Velma
I'll
cartoon.
find it.
I don't.
I have not.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest with you. It just. I have no issues when it comes to
I didn't have a
changing
problem with
things.
it.
Well, I have no issues when it comes to changing things. My issues are when it doesn't feel like it used to. And it doesn't. Now, I mean, I understand, yeah, they're probably going toward a different audience. It's geared toward other people now, but it just doesn't feel the same to me. And I don't know how to feel about the stuff when it doesn't feel the same
That's
to me.
fair.
Yeah, I'm not
I
seeing
get
it
that.
anywhere.
I got it. I'll send it to you. Just hold your horses.
Yeah, but see, it's aggravating me now because I want to find it and I can't find it. And I'm looking at all of his pictures.
Well, just hold your horses. I'll send it to you.
Hey, Brian, if you're watching this from one bald guy to another, you have a perfectly shaped head. And I can say stuff like that because mine's got that right shape too. Ooh, what's that?
That's hysterical.
But that looks good. Oh, I got it. I'm about to share the screen.
Oh, you finally got it?
Yep, there we go.
There you go, indeed. Big Boa, boxer dude. I mean, aside from protecting his head from getting punched in a boxing match, I don't know what the point of the helmet is. I don't know why he needs the little air thing that doesn't connect to any kind of supply. I don't know what any of that stuff is, but yes. Well, that right there is a really good question. You're not wrong, Chris. That was. I remember the first time I wanted Zartan. I wanted Zartan so bad. I was at Parkway City Mall, at Sears, not Sears, at Montgomery Ward, and they had the Zartan action figure. And he came with that weird little swamp bike thing. You remember that, Alan?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like begging for that. And my dad's like, they can't even spell Tarzan right. What kind of stupid looking action figures? It's not Tarzan, it's Zartan. And he changes color if you leave him in the sun. And dad's like, no, you're not getting that. I got it eventually, but I'm not gonna lie, I was butt hurt pretty bad.
Mine was, Mom, I need a bat. We're not bringing a bat into the house. No, Mom, you don't understand. I need a bat. And she goes, no, you don't understand. No one needs a bat. So the next time, we were at the store, I grabbed it. I'm like, Mom, why can't I have this? And she goes, you can have that. I was like, you told me I couldn't have a bat. And she goes, you're not getting a bat. Mama, that's a bat. That's a bat. Oh, I see now. Okay, yeah, you can have a bat.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah, it
Wow.
definitely turned into a who's on first scenario.
It sounds like it. What were some of the other wackadoo names of G.I. Joe characters? Because there definitely were some. And I hated most of them too, like Chuckles. I never liked Chuckles. Stupid blonde dude in a freaking Hawaiian shirt. I get he's supposed to be an undercover guy or whatever, but what is undercover about a Hawaiian shirt? You can only wear that in one place.
Yep. You know who I wish, I don't know if we'll ever get it though, but what character I would like to see G.I. Joe Classified do? Sherlock, the new one.
I agree with that.
I would like to see her as a G.I. Joe Classified.
Well, I'd like to see something like Helix too. Some of the newer characters. I don't know that we'll ever see those, but
Yeah.
it would be nice. I agree.
Oh God, I'm trying to
I'd
think.
like to see them with the classified series. I'd like to see them do a new Cobra Commander in his old battle armor. I liked his battle armor that
See,
he
I
got
want.
around. What was that, issue 54 somewhere in there?
Yeah, I want to see a really good, updated, modernized Cobra Commander with the hood on.
The hooded Cobra Commander was by far the best.
Yeah, I mean, I love that look and everything.
Do you remember the only way you could get that at first was a mail order? You had to collect the battle points off the back of your GI Joe figures and
Yep,
mail them in, and then they would send you one of those in the mail.
yep. And didn't they do
I
the?
was so mad because my mom and dad would never let me do that.
I was the same way. Didn't they do that with one other action figure?
They did it with a couple of them. That's the way you could only get Duke that way to start with.
Didn't they do that with the fridge?
Yes, the fridge was one of those. And for anybody wondering, yes, that is Refrigerator Perry, who played for the actual Chicago Bears
Yep.
in the 80s. He was a big 320-pound defensive lineman who they put in on the offense occasionally to run the ball down near the goal line. And they made him a G.I. Joe figure. And the weapon he came with, I kid you not, was a giant, like a stone or metal football with a chain wrapped around it. So he would swing around a football on a chain and hit people with it.
He never ended up in a cartoon, did he?
He did not.
Yeah.
He did not. Sergeant Slaughter did, but he didn't. You know that Rocky was supposed to end up in GI Joe, right?
Yeah, I knew that they had talked about it, but it never happened.
It did happen. It just didn't happen again. They were far enough downstream in getting all the paperwork done that he appeared in, I want to say it was GI Joe Order of Battle number 3. Something like that. There's a random appearance. It's in an offshoot comic. It's not the main book, but Rocky did appear, and Big Boa was supposed to be the foil to his character, right? He's the villain to the Rocky character that they were putting in GI Joe. Rocky ended up not getting the action figure, not coming out in the regular comic, and as a result, they were like, "Well, we still got this big Boa dude, so we're going to put him in regardless." So they did put him in regardless. Are you looking it up?
Loud, and it's probably okay. Yeah, let's just go and share the screen.
You might as well share the screen.
Yeah, nothing phenomenal stand out about it. I mean, maybe the Chuck Taylor style tennis shoes. But I did see this, and this is why I'm probably a little bit glad that we didn't get the action figure.
What the heck is that? He got like one of those, what do they call those? Punji sticks or whatever?
Okay, why is that? Because I'm like not even on that anymore.
That one doesn't look like Rocky.
I see what it did. Yeah, it's like, was it pugilist sticks or whatever they're called?
Yeah, that was it. There we go.
Yep.
That actually looks like Rocky, at least.
Yeah.
It's a dumb character outfit, but at least that looks like him.
I wonder how much money he would have made off of that.
Goodness only knows, but he did actually show up in a comic, just not in a regular story or anything. And it was a real shame because that would have been a fun ad. Rocky meets Police Academy. Oh, well played, James. Well played. That's funny right there. I don't care who you are. That's funny. Was it Order of Battle number 3? Am I remembering that right?
Is it Battle number 3? Let's see. Well, I'm looking to order it.
Well, it should just answer first appearance of Rocky Balboa in G.I. Joe. I mean, we should get that. Boy, we're taking you guys down some weird rabbit holes tonight, aren't we? Just all over the place with some wackadoo comics history.
We have gone from literally independent comics and the 90s to G.I. Joe Rocky. So yeah, it's been a good night.
Yep. Yep, that's a fun night right there.
I mean, it's wait a minute.
And don't forget, we also talked about the gelatinous cube.
Footnotes. Where did that go? Go back a page. I saw something. I saw his name like right as I clicked. Rocky was featured in issue number 2.
Number 2. Dang it.
Yeah. Oh crap.
I provided false information. I'm sorry. I shall report myself to the governing body immediately.
Well, you know, HR is not with us, so I won't say anything if you won't.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep.
It's a good thing nobody's watching this. So when are we going to do our 24 hours at the comic shop?
Well, I'm good to go whenever y'all are good to go. We just need to get them other
Ellis
two fellas involved.
Those Ellis boys are at it again.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make me Uncle Jesse, and are you Cooter? Is that?
You know, I'd be Cooter. I got no issues with being Crazy Cooter.
I got no issues being Uncle Jesse.
Because, I mean, here's the thing about Crazy Cooter. He always had the hooch and he never got caught. So, I mean, I'm good with it.
That's 100% accurate. Yeah, see, we even took this all the way around to the Dukes of Hazzard. So how did we do that?
I know.
By the time we get to Dukes of Hazzard, that usually means it's probably about time to sign off.
Yeah, but I can't sign off with the Dukes of Hazzard. So let's sign off with, was it Patrick Dempsey in The Man from Atlantis? How about that? Let's just go very obscure reference for no reason.
Yeah, that one's out there, bud. I'm not gonna lie, that one is out there.
The young kids just went, "Who? What?"
That's because they all know him as McDreamy.
Mm-hmm. No, he was no, that's crap. Did I say the right name? We're about to find
Patrick
out.
Dempsey.
I thought McDreamy was the dude that was on I'm sorry, Patrick Duffy.
That's a very different person.
Very different person. Yeah, he played the Man from Atlantis.
Yeah, there you go. I was confused on a lot of things right there, but I knew who Patrick Dempsey was.
Yeah, Patrick Duffy.
Speaking of actors, shout out to Jeremy Renner. Hope he's okay. That was pretty rough.
So my wife and I was talking about that the other day, and I kind of missed something. I saw something on Facebook, and I mean, I'm not trying to spread rumors or anything, but I saw something on Facebook that the doctors were talking about amputating his leg, and then the very next day, I see on Facebook where he's at home resting comfortably. So, where did the whole leg amputation thing come from?
I don't know. I saw that in a couple places too, but that was probably just rumors running around.
Okay.
Or maybe they did. I don't know. Maybe he's gonna have a wooden leg named Smith. Goodness only knows. But anyway, he's recovering, and that's awesome. DeMar Hamlin for the Buffalo Bills also recovering out of the hospital, all that stuff now. So definitely some blessings there. Thank goodness for all that.
And for our wrestling fans, we lost Jay Briscoe.
It's been a week.
Day before yesterday in a car accident. That's very sad. He's been pretty much a wrestling legend. Man, there's been a lot going on. 2023's not shaping up to be a good year so far.
Well, it has started off pretty rough. Hopefully that just leaves room for improvement.
Yeah, really.
Hopefully so. Speaking of improvement, we're going to improve your night by signing off. Hope you guys have a great night. Have a great weekend. Come by the shop, hang out on Friday afternoons with Tom and Alan, talk comics. Come by on Saturdays, hang out, talk comics, talk games, whatever. That's half the fun of this hobby is talking about stuff with other people who enjoy the same things. So read some comics, play some games, hang out at the shop, talk about that stuff with people. That's where a lot of the fun of it is. So we'll catch you guys next time. We do have some guests that we are working on for future episodes. And we're talking some pretty cool people that we are trying to bring on. So be on the lookout for those. We almost had one tonight, but it didn't quite work out timing wise. So hopefully I'm going to snag this person for next week. So with that tantalizing cliffhanger, we will leave you and we'll catch you all next week.